Hey fellow fans, how's it going? Just want to take this video to review some of the ones I've been reading in the last week and a half or so. So it's a blend of recent releases and very old ones. So I'm just going to quickly skim through these because I have about 20 here. As you can see in front of you, War of the Realms, that's number 3, just finished reading that there last night. I'm liking this story. I like how everyone seems to have lost. I never really like it in comic books whenever everyone, like the good guys just win automatically. So everyone seems to have actually lost so far, and it seems to be a really big scope crossover. And now normally I never used to buy these crossovers, but now I've taken to buying just the main line. So I'm buying the 6-part issue War of the Realms, but I'm not buying most of the tie-ins. I'll buy the other ones that I read, Amazing Spider-Man and so on, and the X-Men, but not the smaller tie-ins like the Doctor Strange or whatever it might be. If it's not something I collect, I won't buy it. But I'm liking it so far. I like Russell Dutterman's art. I like the sort of end of the book where it shows you a bit more of his art and all, a bit more appreciations given to the artist. Next up is the absolutely brilliant so far Spider-Man life story. Something that makes complete sense whenever you hear it, or whenever you hear it's going to be released, and then you're reading it and then you're like, why didn't they do this sooner? So if you don't know, this is Spider-Man as if he had aged properly. So he becomes Spider-Man in 1962, and then every 10, 11, 12 or so years, every decade, it chronicles big moments of his life while hinting at things that have gone before. So 1962 was set in 62 and he was 15 and Gwen was alive, etc. Life Story 2 was set in, I think it was 74. Flash goes to Vietnam, which he did, but instead of being 18 he's 27. Peter's 27, he's with Gwen. It's to do with the Clone Saga. And then this is Life Story 3. It now refers back to Gwen dying. He's with Mary Jane. They're having children. Aunt May is getting old. She has dementia. It's obviously the Black Suit. It's Secret Wars. There's Venom in there. And then Life Story 4 will be the 90s. So obviously the Clone Saga and whatever madness was on in the 90s. Venom and Carnage, and so Maximum Carnage. And 5 is the Naughties, which I assume will be Moreland and 9/11 and things like that. And then the last decade there will be Life Story 6, and that will be anything from, I suppose, Dan Slott's run. Loving this. Love it, love it, love it so far. Highly recommended. Right, quickly moving through these. Kevin Smith's run on Hit Girl, based in Hollywood. Pernille Oram, if you don't know her art, gorgeous artwork. Really, really nice. I've been enjoying the Hit Girl mostly so far, but it started to get repetitive. But this first issue here is subtitled The Silent Era. So if you don't know the entire issue, spoilers, the entire issue has no text, no speech. It's silent. It's just done by pictures, which is very good artwork and very good writing. There is a really touchy subject in it though. I won't spoil it, but it's quite close to the bone that Kevin sometimes tries to do. Love him or hate him, I love him. But it's a very good issue so far. I know I'm a wee bit behind, but again, I have no word of a lie, folks. I have about 500 issues I have bought but not read, so I'm getting through them very slowly. Next up was an issue, or a story I hinted at in the last video, Hellboy Darkness Calls, about Baba Yaga and Russian influence. What can you say about Hellboy? And Duncan Fegredo's running it. It's gorgeous, it's amazing, it's lovely. I've only got 3 or 4 issues of it, but I just wanted to read them for the sake of reading them, because I fancied reading the Hellboy. Haven't got round to seeing the recent film, probably won't, unfortunately. I just don't think any of the films have really captured him yet. Maybe we'll get a TV show one day, who knows. But this is great so far. Well, this has been great from what I've read of it. So as well as the rest of Darkness Calls there, I've been reading Spider-Man Hunted. This recent story of Nick Spencer's is fantastic now. This is Chris Bachalo. I used to despise, no sorry I beg your pardon, I do still despise Chris Bachalo's work. I don't like his work. It's blocky, it's Kubrick. It's the colouring, whoever does his colouring, I don't like. It just hasn't sit well with me. It's just too... Not that I'm saying everyone has to look realistic, but it has to look like people and things, and they don't to me. They almost look like an impression of it, and that's not what we're going for in these books. If he wants to go and doing some weird fantasy sci-fi epic where it's all more about the art and how it feels rather than the story, fine. But I don't like this. But I don't mind it because it's 19 point HU, so it's an extra appendix story. And I wanted to get all of these to flesh out the story. Now, I know I did say I wasn't getting all the spin-offs, but these aren't so much spin-offs because I love this story so far. If you've been following the story, basically, I think Nick Spencer realised most of Spider-Man villains are animal-based. So what he's been doing is all the animal-based villains, like the kangaroo, the lizard, not Dr. Octopus, because obviously he's the superior Spider-Man at the moment, the vulture, can't think, the gibbon, rhino, etc. have all been captured by someone to be hunted. That should be a spoiler there. But it's a good book so far. I'm really enjoying the main story. It's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, that's again, why didn't we think of that sooner? But it's a good story. So far, so good. The main artwork by, I wish Ryan Ottley would come back. I'm enjoying Ryan Ottley's work on it. I wish he would come back more often, but he's kind of nipping in and out, doing Invincible in his own books, unfortunately. I'm just going to quickly touch on The War of the Realms 2. Lovely cover. The only thing about this is I don't like the Punisher being in weird, and Wolverine in off-world adventures like this. I know you stick the Punisher and Wolverine on the cover and you'll sell the book. Very good. And what they're doing with the Punisher is an embarrassment to the character. To me, they just stand out too much. Wolverine was dead because he was in every book, and now yet again he's in every friggin' book, and it's just, no, too much, overkill. Don't like them being in the book. But otherwise, again, like I said before, the art and the story I'm really, really interested in. Now this is an interesting one. The Transformers. I started collecting these as well because I wanted more sort of older issues, you know, bronze, copper, dark age books. So I was like, well, what is there? What's a normal amount of books I can get? I researched the Transformers. Now, not the UK ones because there was 300 issues of those, but the American one, the Marvel one, there was 80 issues. Then they came back in the 90s for about 12 issues, and then IDW, I think it was, either IDW or Dynamite, IDW, did about a 20 issue run called Regeneration 1, which finished off the Marvel story. So there's about 112 issues to collect, so I've got about 30 so far. So I picked this up, and this is it's not Megatron's first appearance in the comics, but it's a daft, silly one. This weird random guy picks up a gun, he's a bit of a loser. It's Megatron. Megatron's brain is wiped for a bit, and then he does whatever the guy wants him to do. So it's a silly issue, but it's just a lot of fun. I think I'm deliberately getting them to remind me of my childhood because I watched the cartoons a lot. But it's fun. The artwork's good. The story's a bit silly, but it's a lot of fun. I just want to touch on this issue here. It's the start of the War of the Realms, but I deliberately got a variant edition, which I don't normally get. But I just love that cover. So just want to show that off primarily. But it's a good start. It was a good start to the crossover. Now for this one, I won't go through each issue, but I've been collecting X-Men Gold. I didn't collect X-Men Blue, because as you can see, and here we've got a lot of X-Men. Because X-Men Blue, I didn't like the idea of, oh, it's the young team again, it's the original team. I understand what the two books were about. It was harking back to the Golden Age. X-Men Gold was the 80s and 90s teams, and the X-Men Blue was harking back to the original 5, and I understand that, but I just don't like the idea of the original 5 being brought back forward in time. If you don't know that story, the original 5 X-Men as teenagers were ripped from the past into the future. X-Men Gold, however, I stuck with it, and it's been a wonderful story of Kitty Pryde growing up and getting married and relationships, and Guggenheim in the end of this issue talks about he wanted to recapture that essence of Claremont, and obviously if you know those books it's impossible to, but he gets close. They get really human, and there's a lot of time and panels and devoted to the stories, the human stories, the real personal stories between them, and it's a really good run. So I just want to show that one off. I'm not going to show them all the issues I read this week, but it's a good run. Bit old school here. Spawn 296. Again, not what I would normally go for. This being virgin art with no logo on it, but I saw it on eBay because they didn't put it in my pull order. They don't sometimes where I get my books. So I found this on eBay for £4 and I thought, get it, it's gorgeous. I have stuck with Spawn the whole way. I've loved Spawn since the HBO show in 1999. But I watched it in 2001 too, and it was that show that pushed me finally into collecting books. And it was that and X-Men that I got, because that's the two I remember most from my younger days. And I've stuck with this, and I stuck with the horrible Angel Medina art in the early noughties. But the story now is a really long stretched out story, 50-60 issues this one story has gone on for, and it's culminating soon. So I'm looking forward to seeing Greg Capullo back in 300. I don't know if he'll stick around much after that, but it'll be interesting to see. But give it a shout if you're not a Spawn fan, or you think, oh, that was dead years ago. Give it a go, you'd be surprised. Bit old school now, X-Men 22. A great book to have. It cost me about a tenner a few weeks ago. Finally got reading it, and admittedly it is very silly. It's an odd story, the villains are bizarre, the four at the front there, the porcupine I think you call him, and literally Plant Man. He's the Scarecrow, and the eel, and again animal based. It's a hard read. It was very much of its time. It's 1965ish. When I think Stan was paying more attention to... No, it wasn't Stan writing it, beg your pardon. It was Roy Thomas writing it. No offence to Roy, but Stan had something going, and then he really devoted his time more to Spider-Man back then and being the publisher, but it's just a nice book to have. And speaking of which, this was a great book. This was Doc Octopus's second or third appearance, maybe his third. This was a great book. This was full of... fraught tension. I think this is a very famous book. I got this for not cheap. You'll see the spine wear along the side there. So I didn't get it for much money, maybe £15-20. But the biggest thing at the end of this issue is where Octopus famously moves in with Aunt May as a lodger, and she doesn't know who he is, and he sets up his base of operations in her spare bedroom. It's funny. I remember it in the cartoon. But a really good book to have. Really love that perspective in the cover and all. Just quickly showing off this because I wanted to show off that cover I mentioned earlier. The Disco Ball and the Pumpkin. It's great because it captured both the era and of the time and the era of Spider-Man. So I just wanted to show that one off. Hellblazer 99. I'm getting through these as well. A lot of different books. Constantine, if you follow Hellblazer, I'm only collecting the first 300, the Vertigo run. That's all I'm getting. Because after that, they've kind of softened him in my opinion. So this run is weird. It's whenever you get books left, and you keep them and you read them when you get them rather than buying them all, you miss bits of the story. So from what I gather, his friends are going to this like pleasure land or something, and he swears he can get them in, and they go in, and he says don't mess around, but they do mess around. But there's this demon in that puppet body, and they get banished and stuff. So it's kind of like whenever your friends let you down kind of thing, and then you unleash an evil between you. It was a nice idea. It was a good story. Another old school one, Detective Comics May 64 or so. A daft story. It was funny. It was of its era. It was that whole 60s vibe where now, if you read Detective and Batman from the 60s, it wasn't as campy as the TV show was. But when the TV show came out, the two of them did then start era. The comic was already silly from the whole way through the 50s. It was more aliens and daftness and silliness and whatever was popular at the time. And basically whatever idea Bob Kane could pluck out of his arse, he would write down, and I don't rate him as an artist. Now the art is always great, and I'm sure if I went online I could find the artist of each issue, but I can never find the credited artist or writer in the book, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below folks, if Bob Kane wrote every single one of them up until maybe 1970 or something, or 69, 68, 69, when the TV show got cancelled. But I can never find a credited artist in the book, a name anywhere. But it's a daft issue. But again, it was cheap. It was fun to have. It's covered in water damage. I think it cost me about £6 off eBay. I thought, why not get it? But I will not pay good money for these detectives. Even though I'm a Batman fan at heart, and he's my favourite, if you will, I won't pay more money for these. Finally, I'm just ending off with X-Men Gold, the end of that, number 36, the end of the run. Really nice cover there. Setting up the feature. So that's what I've been reading this week. I'm just going to put these away now, and hopefully you guys soon, in a week or so time, I'll have whatever I've been reading this week. So if you like any of these, if you want me to do any specific videos, leave me a comment below. If you want me to show off my X-Men collection or Golden Age collection or whatever it is, let me know and I'll sort that soon. So again, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye.